I guess we'll have. I'm podcasting now, by the way. No, you're not. All right. All right. This week's episode is brought to you by horrible comb-over ponytail man braids and also trendy onesies.
This week's podcast is also brought to you by body pains and bad push-ups.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your host, Madison.
I'm your other host, Jesse James.
Uh-oh. Okay. The internet is... The internet is not enjoying itself right now. Oh, I have a sake that I need to...
Well, you should probably get up and get it now before we get going.
I'll do that right this second.
This is the best possible way to start a podcast, by having one of the members just kind of ambling around an empty room that you can only see via video, which, to be fair, is probably the only way you're going to be watching this. Ooh, that does look like good sake, though. What is it?
Ozeki brand, I guess.
Okay.
Or maybe Ozakai. I have no idea. But I have not tried. Hey, Evan.
What is it?
I love your background music that you're doing for us, but maybe quieter. There's some sake pouring ASMR for us.
Oh, good bottle closing. I like that.
Yep.
For anybody out there who's already hard, just get ready for the rest of this amazing podcast.
Are you ready?
Oh, it's a frothy one. Hold on a second.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Feels like my brain is bubbling in my head, which is what I want.
I guess that's what you want if you're into that kind of thing.
Which I am.
Perfect.
So, body pains?
Yeah. This week is partially brought to you by a couple weeks ago. I had like a real late night. In other words, a non-existent night followed by a lot of painting work that was due that day, along with lots of other stuff. I was cooking for a late Thanksgiving, all that, and I think I was already not doing amazing. I came off of 2 days with like 3-ish hours of sleep before that, and I gave myself like an ulcer, I think. That's why I have this nice over-the-counter action to give me 14 days of treatment, I guess, for trying to mitigate the ulcer action. But in addition to that, I'm a hypochondriac and always think I'm dying the minute anything starts.
A fun plus to any situation.
So I of course interpret any sort of torso rib-based pain as immediately being heart-related, and then the stress keeps me from sleeping, and the ulcer keeps me from sleeping comfortably. So for like all of last week, pretty much, I was not sleeping very well at all, and all of my muscles were fucked up. It's still not perfect, but like I am adjusting to it a little more. But I also had early morning dentist appointments for most of last week.
Woohoo!
So that was awesome. So yeah, body pains inhabited a lot of my doing things this week. I'm also working on a commission, a weird-looking dog. And for anybody out there who doesn't do art commissions, which is probably like at least 60% of the people don't, a lot of times you get asked to make things that you don't have any interest in. and it's based on a style that you haven't done in almost a decade.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't have the paper or the paint color I used for the background, so of course it's as much like the old one as you can. So that's fun. It's been interesting.
Yeah. That is always fun. In a similar situation, I have been asked to design something in Microsoft Word this week. So.
Oh, is it just text on a blank background? Because if it's not,
yes, it's I don't know. I haven't touched Word for like 10 years, so I have to make some sort of template for them. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds dumb.
Yeah, I'm really
just
procrastinating.
ask them what kind of ASCII anime face they would like.
I will do that. It's a good idea.
So, I think up top, I would like to address the podcast name situation.
Yeah.
So I have my version of a solution for this, but I kind of want to hear about yours. So the issue is Madison sent me some Instagram account that has my week's podcast, even though most other things do not, including like podcast catchers for the most part and stuff like that. So people are already using that name as of about a year ago.
Yeah, actually, so I looked into their account and they have a YouTube account. They also are on Apple Podcasts.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, and they started posting right around the time we started recording.
Nice.
So it feels real good. So they are kind of like doing it, but we got the Gmail, so they can't have that. That's ours.
Yeah. So did you have any ideas for things you wanted to do just offhand?
Like about the name situation?
Yeah.
Just offhand, I don't know. I think we could pull some adjectives and nouns out of a hat, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's my idea.
So if that's your idea, would you like to hear my potential idea?
Yes, I would love that.
So I was thinking about this after you told me today, and my main idea was number one in my plan was fuck 'em, because we already have the name in a usable way. But I'm going to go ahead and send you an Instagram account if we want to have that I noticed was not taken.
Oh boy.
So you just check your phone there and you let people know. Because I think, because you can have your name be whatever you want. I think this Instagram account's going to get good traffic.
I think you're right. Okay,
what did I send you?
What Jesse sent me, and also the future name of our podcast is Vegeta 42069.
See, now that I think we could snatch up right now.
I think we should.
And then we have an Instagram set.
Yeah. That's great. Yes, let's do that right now.
All right. This is how business works in our world, which is the world of not business.
You know, this is how things get done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A good example of millennial business. Oh, apparently I am hosting somebody's birthday party this Saturday. That's interesting.
Oh, happy birthday to them.
So we might move recording to the day after or just earlier. Okay. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Say what?
No, I think everyone wants to hear us plan when we do it right now. So.
Do you want to hear about our podcast plans?
Do you want to know how we're doing when it comes to securing Gmails and Instagrams? Because it's not well.
Well, I would say in our method of not editing, we're doing pretty well. Do you have that Instagram snatched up?
The Vegeta one?
Yeah.
No, I got distracted, but I'm doing it.
Okay. I just think that's going to be really important for our future.
I
I
think you're
also
right.
am very. I just really like the idea of telling people they need to go to Vegeta for 2069.
Let's see. It's happening. It's happening. I just have to tell them that we're old enough to do this. I promise we are. Welcome to Instagram, Vegeta 42069.
Aw, yeah. Let's see this week's podcast compete with that.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take on the
Losers.
mantle of being this week's podcast version B. That's fine with me. That fits our brand very well.
We could be this week's podcast after dark.
We could. For all necessary branding, After Dark can just be tacked onto the end.
Yeah. Totally different things. Not the same podcast. We're after dark. I did look at their like podcast history, and not even once have they covered the Pornhub statistics for the last year. So honestly, can they even call themselves this week's podcast if they haven't done that?
Well, yeah, it looked like. So I was a little bit taken aback because, based on what they're talking about, they clearly have excellent taste. Like the case that they look into our stuff in the future, I do want them to know, as listeners to this episode, that I'm sure will be called Vegeta for 2069, that I think that the movies that they're watching are good movies.
Oh, are they?
So,
okay, I didn't look.
Well, they're bad movies, but they're watching Ninja Assassin, and they're talking. They didn't talk about cats, so I think we have that over them.
Okay.
No goop. They're definitely sticking to the more macho scene.
Oh yeah, like wrestling was something. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't talk about that. I don't have any.
Yeah, I have no interest in talking about wrestling unless it's maybe wrestling that somebody else talks about and I can comment on.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's the news in terms of our podcast name.
The professionalism of the podcast keeps going up.
Yep.
And I think that's important.
I don't think it'll ever go down. It just keeps on going.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go but up.
That's true.
As very good podcasters have said in the past, promise nothing and deliver even less is the credo of a good podcast.
Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot for us.
And speaking of delivering even less, I want you to tell me what your initial reaction is to the Goop show, Gwyneth Paltrow's show that just went up on Netflix on Friday. Because I have opinions.
Oh yeah, do you? Okay, well, so I have seen the first, the second, the third episodes. The first one is about like what is it, like psychoactive drug therapy?
Yeah, they're taking psilocybin mushrooms, and then there's a lot of aspects of how they're doing it that I think are fucking garbage. But that's what they're doing, is they're trying to use mushrooms for therapy.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's the first one. The second one is cold exposure therapy, which is just like literally what it sounds like. You just go out in the cold and that's your therapy.
Which they're using the Wilhoff method, right? Or
Wim Hof. Yeah.
Wim Hof. Right.
Yeah. And then the third one features, I think her name is like Betty Dodgson. and she has her organization about like helping women understand their anatomy better, and also teaching them how to orgasm better, and also teaching them about like how they should get to come to during sex. So it's
Okay, so that one's all about the woman's body. So
Yes.
I didn't watch the third episode yet, but I saw the previews that included an older lady that was having women stare at their own vagina and then
That's
like
her.
learn how to crank it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rely on you to tell us about that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear more. But I think we definitely need to start with the first episode because this show is a train wreck real quick. So what's your experience with mushrooms?
0.
Okay. Mine is all secondhand. I've been around a lot of people who use mushrooms, but I'm not somebody who does a lot of like experimental drugs in general. I don't dislike drugs, but I'm just not the type of person who gains much from it when I have done it.
Yeah.
And so the last people I lived with did do mushrooms for the purpose of like sort of de-stressing and getting out of their own head for like a weekend at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm finding with a lot of the episodes so far, with both the episodes, but also sort of looking ahead to what we're probably going to be watching this coming week, I don't disagree inherently with the bulk of what they're talking about on this show.
Yeah.
I just think that their messaging and the way they're doing it is the fucking worst.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. That like so far the episodes that I've seen, each of them has like actual somewhat scientific backing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they don't fully, I think, like show that or address that. I think they treat it as more like, I don't know, especially the first one was the weirdest ones, I think, in terms of like approach of this is an actual science. Like they didn't do a whole lot of that explanation.
They do a lot of like it will be paragraphs that aren't quoted from anything necessarily. They're just what they're writing for the show, and they'll put it up on screen while they're transitioning between scenes, and they'll like have a little like highlighter show up and show you the important things in like 6 lines of text. And most of the statements that they put up are not facts. They're just opinions that they're putting up in a very like statemental way to say like, here's what we're telling you is true. Yeah. And between that and the way that everybody around Gwyneth Paltrow seems to treat her like she's superhuman, really illustrates the whole culty aspect of the whole Goop thing. Also, so in case you can't really pick up how this show is structured, they're filming people going and doing these things as like weekend retreats almost. And they're
like
all
company retreats for
people.
people.
They're all employees of Gwyneth Paltrow. So it's like team building exercises, but like mandated by the company to go do drugs with people that you work with. And then telling you that, oh, there's no better way to do this than to like just go as a family. Near the end of the first episode, did you catch the like second in command lady? I don't remember her name offhand. The one with the big gums and tight teeth.
I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think Chris something. I don't know.
So she mentions in there, well, you spend most of your day with the people that you work with, so you should be as close to them as possible, which isn't a bad statement in and of itself, but it is a very like, why would you be anywhere but work kind of statement that's kind of terrifying in its own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, real bad vibes off everything in this show.
I think there. So at the end of the first episode, I wrote down a line that I think either she said or Gwyneth Paltrow said, but I think it perfectly sums up the show. Um, the okay, so one of the actual specialists, like part of the show, is that they structure it in a way that they have a person who's like a specialist in whatever the topic is,
Mhm.
do kind of like a back and forth sort of interview sort of an introduction, and then they kind of like cut to the Goop staff actually doing it. But with the first one, she's talking to one of these guys who are like therapists, I think, who specialize in using MDMA or whatever to do therapy. And
Yeah.
one of them goes, "Oh, maybe we could do a Goop MDMA assisted therapy clinic." And she goes, "Sounds like a Christmas party to me."
Uh,
Like,
yeah, I had
I think
forgotten about that.
that perfectly sums up their approach to all of these different things. It's like, oh, that's our company Christmas party, is sitting in a circle and showing each other our vaginas. So
Uh, can't imagine. Just think about where we both worked doing any of these things.
I'd rather not.
Exactly. It would not be great. Even if Mel wasn't included, Mel being very you'll not know who that is. That's fine. Call her the goop of our job. Uh, or Gwipple, I guess. And
You don't want to get sued.
even with everybody else that we worked with, who I'm fine with, there's no way in hell I would be like in a fucking genital flashing circle or doing mushrooms with them on a beach
No.
or jumping into icy water with them. Like, none of those things sound even slightly team building or appealing. I was already a little so on doing a cooking class with them for Christmas, which is what we did this year. And it turned out okay, but it was a little weird. Uh, Also, when I get a slightly cornered feeling, I definitely uh, get more sarcastic, and that can be a problem when it's towards your boss or your boss's husband.
Yeah. Yeah, that overlap is probably not super great. Um I could see it. I'm like trying not to picture anything that you just said.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it is very, I don't know. I can't get past the, I know like her staff is very diverse, but everything about the show just reads to me like this is all only shit that you could do if you were rich or you worked at Goop
Yeah,
or if you're rich.
yeah,
And
and
that's it. Except for like cold therapy, I guess.
I think there is a certain amount of diversity that's like forced in the show. Uh, I'm sure that they have a as mandated by a company amount of diversity,
Yeah.
but my roommate, um, unofficial fourth member of the podcast, um, he works at a Seattle-based tech company, and they basically just have people who look like they should be in tech working there, which is a pretty common thing for all jobs. You kind of pick people who fit what your job is like physically because that's what is the most comfortable for people to hire.
Mhm.
And while you do see like a couple people who aren't white, which they really pushed in the second episode. I feel like the first episode was you didn't see anybody on screen who wasn't white, even though they were in Jamaica,
Yeah.
which we should talk about because that's fucking
Yeah.
weird. Um, but in the second episode, all of a sudden, like half the people there weren't white, but all the people that they actually talked to for any amount of time were. And it really felt like a performative like way of doing that. And like their job, they just from talking with my roommate, they hired one person who wasn't necessarily fit and wasn't white, but or white or Asian because it's Seattle, so you have a slightly different version of racist hiring. But they were, I think he said that they were trans. So it's like, it's the perfect diversity hire. You have somebody who fits most of the things, slightly overweight, different color than the rest of the people there, and a different orientation. So you can just say like, well, we hire those people. And even if nobody is intending on doing that, that's just the way those companies work. So watching the like group of people who are involved in this goop stuff then congratulating themselves in every episode about how they're like being peak humans, like doing the best that people can do, and then trying to work in like fake humility is really aggravating to watch. Like I feel like the closest thing to somebody who was like at a disadvantage was Kevin, I think his name is, the guy who's like her personal assistant.
Yeah.
And that mostly just seems like Kevin's got a lot of real big problems and he landed in this job and it's great that he's there. But I just want to say, when she gave him a hug at the end of the first episode, my first thought was, I think he probably wears sweaters every day because he's supposed to be huggable.
Oh, no.
Because if you look at his outfits when he's working there as opposed to when he's on the trip, it's just like, oh yeah, squeeze this, which is super weird.
I did not notice that.
Well, and they are in California, so like you have to consider that they are in warm temperature for him to be in a sweater every day.
Are they really? Okay. For some reason, I thought they were in New York. I don't really know why I thought that.
Yeah, that would make sense. One of the ladies in the second episode says, for somebody who's always in California and like a wuss in the cold, this is a big deal. I do want to talk about the Jamaica thing because that is such a pain in the ass. So what's your take? Would you describe the three, I guess, gurus or whatever you want to call them that they go see about taking mushrooms?
How would I describe them?
Oh, just describe the situation.
Just describe. Okay. They were okay. So it was one lady and then two guys, and they all look like. I guess I could see. I could see therapists, but just kind of like very weird therapist vibes.
Yeah.
Except for the lady. The lady is more leaning into the I do mushrooms for a living vibes.
Or yeah, like she actually gave me the like inner city guru vibe.
Yeah.
Like I'm here to make sure that you can be as effective as you are possibly able to be kind of person.
I'm here to turn you into the peak human.
Yeah, she's the like downtown hot yoga instructor type.
Yeah, but they're all wearing like really eccentric beaded necklaces, hanging out in like flowy tunics and.
The one guy, the guy who is constantly emoting with his face, but doesn't seem to have any like real stuff going on in his head. That dude, every time I looked at him, I didn't see clothing. I just saw like him wearing a dream catcher, basically.
Yeah.
Like I know he had like a tunic or something on, but it just felt like he was a human dream catcher in a really ridiculous way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much how I would sum it up. Their general, the general feeling of those three, and then I don't know anything about doing therapy with what did you say?
Oh yeah, psilocybin.
Psilocybin, but there was just so much touching, and I hated watching that. I'm sure, like I think that is a thing. Like I said, I've never done that, but. I've heard that is a thing, that like touch becomes heightened or something.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, but it really sucks to watch as a person totally removed from the situation. Like all the weird chest rubbing, like really, really fast.
Yeah, that part
Hated
was
that.
weird. When Kevin has his oh, also everybody's there because of some form of like issue that you would go to just see a therapist for.
Yes, yeah.
They're basically there for well, my dad died, or uh, people don't love me, or it's just the stuff that you go to a therapist for, and they sort of like inform you or admonish you towards whatever it is that you're trying to get done,
Mm-hmm.
which seems healthy. I really don't mind the mushroom part. It's the rich people's retreat in white Jamaica talking about how they're in the Garden of Eden. Uh,
That was a fun crossover.
yeah. Um, and
Oh.
then everybody just having like these super mundane problems that everybody has, but treating it like it's very important because they're very effective people and this doesn't happen to them. Um, Also, her assistant, a lady, the lady whose name I will never remember, um, she just sucks like all the time. Like she's the most
I did.
like toady kind of lady. Like
Yeah.
everything that Paltrow says, she's very like, oh
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Like in the part where Wim Hof is like, let's do some push-ups, and she's like, oh, Gwen's gonna do so many more push-ups than me. I'm so
yeah.
weak compared to you.
And this
Like,
lady she looks like she's in decent shape, and she's like, Gwyneth Paltrow's been fasting for a week, and she's gonna do so many more push-ups than me, and then like that's what happens, I guess, but also like I can't help but feel like that was just how they decided to do it.
yeah.
Um, Also, kind of in theme with all of these things being things that I don't necessarily disagree with, I have done just really basic cold therapy with myself for a long time. Uh, and after watching this episode, I actually was like, oh, I should do that again for like my own body pains because my week's been shitty.
Hmm.
And it did help. And like the breathing stuff is just stuff they teach you at therapy. Like
Yeah.
it. I do know that that method has results of certain types, but it is sort of that like a lot of things have results. So like you can train people to be more sturdy just by teaching them that having a positive attitude and being more in tune with life can do that.
Hmm.
But the way that it's presented is as though you're like, uh, I don't know, crafting a new super body out of uh,
Yeah.
doing this stuff.
Yeah. And that's like in their little intro, kind of how she kind of explains that as being the purpose of Goop is to, God, what was the quote that I read? Basically, like she's like, the purpose of Goop is to push boundaries and find these like crazy new things that like actually work, maybe, but just like really kind of out there forms of self-help or self betterment kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's kind of a shame because like you said, this a lot of the stuff that they're talking about does have at least some basis in science, or like is like a real thing,
Yeah.
but kind of the goal of spreading it or sharing it with with people who aren't familiar is like completely undermined when you treat it as your company retreat. And like, I would be so much more interested if they just pulled 5 or 10 random people to do mushrooms in
Yeah.
Jamaica. Like
Yeah.
that would have been, I think, better.
Also, one of my favorite little things was when they're talking about like people working at Goop in I think the first episode, and there's just a like a 2-second shot of a woman bored holding papers on a skateboard just slowly rolling through the hallway.
That was really good.
I really like that.
I think that really sums up the situation.
Like
Uh,
the most shitty tech job image you can possibly put up.
but they're on a skateboard, so you know
Yeah.
it's a cool job.
If they're on a skateboard, then why would they need to go home?
We're not like those other companies. We let you skateboard, and we're cool.
Yeah, mostly we're cool.
Oh God, yeah. What did I not bring up? What was it? In my intro, I mentioned trendy jumpsuits and onesies. That's a big thing at Goop HQ. Everyone looks like a pastel minion, and it's pretty
fun. In the push-up section, Gwoople and her second in command, when they do the push-ups, they're both wearing onesies, and Goople's onesie is like taupe, and the other lady's is like a slightly different color, but it's very weird that they're just in the same.
Yeah. I feel like it's a standard issue. Once you start working there, they just make you a bunch of onesies.
Which, to be fair, does support my theory that Kevin has to dress huggably at all times.
Oh, yeah. That would be huggable.
Also, I hate Kevin. Like, they talk about him like he's like the very genuine like cherry boy of the office who's just like sweet to everybody, and he's like, they have a scene for some reason where he lies about being 36 when he's 39, and then they have a laugh about it because that's jokes, I guess. And it's just the weirdest like vibe from Kevin. And he really feels like he is just eating himself up inside at all times, but knows that he makes money at this job. Also, he's the only one who's like, oh yeah, I go on drug retreats when they go to this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
I feel like, I don't actually know what it is, but I feel like Kevin, let's see, Kevin and Gwyneth Paltrow, I feel like they have a different history than everybody else there, because that one lady with the teeth alluded to them have, like, they had been friends for years and years and years or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of
that's why he's her like personal assistant.
Yes.
Okay.
But I guess even before Gwoople came around.
Yeah, they do go out of their way to make him very much into like a character or a prop, more seems like. But
well, I also like how they in the second episode. Oh, sorry, did something blow up?
Evan erupted with laughter in the corner.
Well, at least we're doing our job. In the second episode, they had a bunch of people who seemed like they were just kind of there because they get paid to be there. Also, like, it might be fun. Except for the one lady who seemed like she was there because she had a problem that might be helped and had like panic attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
And they never really resolve any of that stuff, but they do have her as like the other person in the interview chair. And they seemingly the structure is that they're showing shots, like scenes from the trip, but then they're also showing like interviews with two people and Gwyneth Paltrow and her second in command. And then randomly they'll have like just some fucking people show up and talk into the camera. Which also, I don't know. from a very layman standpoint on all this stuff, it really felt like they were just digging for anybody who would give a positive review on what they're doing. None of it seemed like it was like randomly polled or like there was another perspective on it.
Yeah.
And the whole show is shot in a way that's sort of like, isn't this amazing, as opposed to like looking at anything critically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That
more
first
like, look at
episode,
this cool thing.
yeah, that first episode is all about like how great it is to do mushrooms, but they don't mention any of the like potential issues or like they mention legality in one of those like face to camera interview things, but only briefly. And it's like in
Mhm.
regards to microdosing, which is something that people do, but it's also something that's like way less noticeable, I guess. So it feels very like, well, you could be doing something illegal, but isn't everything illegal? Like that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. I listening to a lot of stuff about cults and things like that, I really do kind of keep coming back to like culty behavior. Even in this show, it kind of comes through. It's weird. I do want to hear about that third episode, though. Gotta
Well,
get some of that third episode in here.
I mean, I guess it was pretty much like the other ones. Like, there's enough science. I mean, that one wasn't as science based because it's about just like I think the third episode's best message is that it's just trying to say that like or the Betty lady says that porn is basically making women have unrealistic expectations for their own bodies because we don't show real women and that kind of thing. So like I can't really it's right. I can't really argue with a lot of it. But
I think
it's
that
jarring for
just
sure.
on that topic, I didn't know they went into that, but I do hear that a fair amount, and I think that advocacy for that is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think people do almost always ignore the fact that they are sort of doing the same thing with men. It's just that it seems more positive on the male side, so people don't think of it as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't actually have a serious issue with porn as an idea, but I do think that like it needs more general regulation, just like anything else. Um, but uh, if you really want good like reviews of the ideas of how pornography works and stuff, even shows like capital capital UNH lowercase HHH. Uh, they have a season that has longer form episodes, and they bring in a lady who is a porn actress for a few of those episodes, and they talk about how like there is a movement to bring like more body positivity into it and more like
Mm-hmm.
uh, more just general uh, like a workmanship quality to it, as opposed to it being like somebody can just, I don't know, shoot whatever they want and put it on a website and then it gets the exact same recognition.
Yeah.
Uh, which I think is good. Like I I think that there's always going to be pornography, so people who are against it are never going to get what they want. But I also
Mm-hmm.
think that talking about like what realistic is super important, especially because a lot of like younger people see it and probably get convinced that as a woman they need to look like a certain thing and be able to do certain things, and as a guy they have to be able to do a lot of certain things, but also like almost as dangerous as needing to look a certain way. I think the male perspective of you should look like anything and you should also be railing like 14 of these like mannequin women Like, that's not really a healthy perspective to give to men either. So
Yeah.
there just needs to be better messaging around that whole thing. That wasn't my phone, by the way. So
That was a third unofficial member of the podcast phone 2 times in a row.
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did people like looking at their own vagina for the thing I saw? It was very well lit, so I bet that wasn't great.
Yep. Like I said, it was jarring. They actually they made an interesting point of discussing within the episode whether or not it was important to actually show in the episode the vaginas, and they end up, spoiler alert, they showed the vaginas.
Oh wait, they do?
They just straight up show everything.
I wasn't really expecting that, but
Me
okay.
neither, because they talk about it like, yeah, we should really do that. Yeah, probably. And then like some couple of other scenes go by and they don't, and you're like, oh, okay, they're not going to. And then all of a sudden it's just like it's very yeah, well lit. It was very well lit.
I wouldn't look at my own business well lit. Like, what's the point?
Well, so I guess one part of it's the whole episode is kind of centered around the Betty Dodson lady. I should look that up so I actually know it. But her thing is, in addition to like we have unrealistic expectations for what sex looks like and what it should be and what people's genitals look like and everything. Her other thing is that because we've had this misinformation for so long, and coupled with also like just generally terrible sex education, a lot of people don't even know anything about like how their own body works. And so I think they flashed up one statistic on the screen that was like I can't remember the organization, but some people did a like had 1,000 people try and label their own anatomy, 1,000 women, and like 40% of them couldn't get anything correct, which is terrifying and
that is terrifying.
Surprising.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
That was pretty shocking.
Maybe I'm in a weird position of needing to learn how to draw that stuff, but I'm pretty surprised. I guess I'm not. Like, that makes sense. That knowing people who eat, let's say, cheese and bread only, the idea of somebody not really having a wide spectrum of certain types of knowledge is not surprising.
Yeah. It's just you don't think about it that much, but 40% seems like a lot of people who don't even know anything about themselves. But that was like the first part of the episode, and where the just like sit with a mirror between your legs and look at it. That's what that is hoping to accomplish, I think. And also she goes into like because of the high expectations set from porn, most women think that they're like disfigured because they don't look like that.
Right.
So they have a couple of minutes on that too. And yeah, overall I thought the episode was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I will say from my experience, just with people that I've had some sort of romantic encounter with, the degree to which like body shapes and weirdly like especially like nipple shapes, I would say there is no diversity in porn for that stuff. Like,
no.
If you look really hard, you can find certain things that are different, I guess, but it's almost exclusively like certain shapes on people are acceptable and the rest just never shows up.
Right.
And if that's something that you see when you're young enough and wait a while before you see it in real life, I guess, like you're going to be confused perhaps if that wasn't something you were expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. They had one other statistic that was like the from the National Board of Plastic Surgery or something like that, and the statistic was that like labioplasties in 1 year from I think from like 2015 to 2016 went up by like more than 50%,
Mhm.
um, which is a lot for 1 year. But I don't know how it's done since then. That's just a lot. But and then they were saying that plastic surgery firms report people as young as 9 calling in to like get that done, which I don't.
Uh,
That's just the thing they said. I don't
did
know how you could prove that either way.
did they say what year?
For
It
the 9-year-olds calling
No,
places,
when it jumped 50%.
I think it was 2015 to 2016.
Okay. Uh, I was going to say there was a year where there was like I think one of the Kardashians on the Kardashian show got it done. So I was
Oh,
curious if that
that could
was corresponding,
that
because
could do that.
that would probably spike it upwards if people saw that and thought, well, I'll get an incredibly like high price doctor to do a really like simple job, and then they go get actual plastic surgery done and not super celebrity plastic surgery done.
Yeah.
That's probably fun for everybody.
Yep. Yeah. There might be some correlation there. I wouldn't be super surprised.
I
But
mean, there could be a lot of other labioplasties out there that are famous. I don't know.
let's make a list.
On next week's podcast, look forward to a list of popular labioplasties.
Oh dear. But yeah, it was overall positive. I think overall, I think it's a so far everything that I've seen in the show is like okay.
Yeah.
There's at least some grounding to what they're saying. I just think they're like they're approaching it uh in a weird way.
That show feels like watching somebody talk to you about how good frozen yogurt is, but like in a way that is almost as though it's only for a certain type of person. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's like, of course, I'm gonna agree with the general statement you're giving, but the way that you're presenting it is just the most infuriating thing possible.
Yeah.
So, if you like being frustrated by things that otherwise might be interesting, you should probably watch Goop.
Probably. I feel like there's an episode in the last 3 that is more controversial. I mean, I don't remember,
Is
but
it? I saw one that said like everybody's psychic or something. Is that the one?
I don't know.
Okay.
I might just be thinking about her whole "here's a candle that smells like my vagina" thing.
Oh,
That
yeah,
might be, but I feel like that ties into one of the episodes at some
it
point.
might. What a fun joke.
We can only hope.
When somebody's dumb joke is done by a rich person who can make it a reality. Uh, I don't. I don't think I would want anything that smells like anybody's junk as a candle, but I guess that's some form of advocacy in their eyes, maybe.
I guess I don't know that Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina needed any more of advocacy, but
Also, all the rumors about her sex life that I hear on, podcasts mostly, uh, have to do with it not really being a thing. A lot of like conscious coupling and uncoupling kind of conversations, which is the most
oh,
annoying version of relationship talk.
hmm. Yeah, I my knowledge of her life is pretty limited to Iron Man.
That sounds good. That's a
Yeah.
good place to be. And honestly, don't watch Goop. Just listen to us talk about it. because you're not going to get anything more from watching it, unless you just really want to see some strange vaginas on screen.
Or unless you actually can afford to do mushrooms in Jamaica, then by all means, the show's right up your alley.
Yeah, go to white Jamaica and do some mushrooms with some fucking weirdos.
Oh,
They of course had to pick the island that is one of the most like segregated, shitty islands to be white and just make a big deal out of being there. They
yeah,
couldn't just go to like Staten Island and do mushrooms with
right.
gurus.
They didn't even really do anything because
No, they sat on
the
a porch. At one
yeah.
point they got in the ocean for a minute, but I assume that was to wash all the daddy tears off and relieve their stress from weird chest pats from people.
I hated that so much. That stressed me out just to watch.
Yeah, that first episode was rough. I think we both stopped watching the first episode partway through and had to like pick it up later.
Yeah. Yeah. It moved kind of slow. The first one did at least anyway. So the most interesting part of that episode was I think when they interviewed a guy who um was he had come back from Afghanistan or something. He was a war
Oh,
vet.
yeah, the guy who was blown up in a toilet.
Yeah, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and he had actually done like actual MDMA therapy clinical trials or something like that, and they had actual footage from his one of his sessions, and that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Like, if they showed more of that, would have been better and less people crying over, yeah, daddy tears in Jamaica.
That reminds me of another problem I had, which was the dude that they were talking to through most of it, the guy with the braid over his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they asked him the most leading questions of any interview I've maybe seen. Like the questions they asked him were like, so do you think that this is a thing that everybody can get like an increased life from, and also is mushroom use like going to change everybody's life for the better, and the
Yeah.
way that you teach it, like it was just the most like it felt like a script of like they just had a bunch of his like website talking points or something,
Yeah.
and decided to ask him those questions so that he could answer them a certain way. I'm not doing it justice of how
They
leading
were
they were,
really
but
long. They were very long questions.
yeah, it was rough. And like I get that having people like that on might be easier if you ask them the right questions, or
Mm-hmm.
like send them those questions for like what they're going to ask them on the show and stuff like that. But it just reminded me of like a like high school therapist or like a psychology teacher from like a lower grade who decided that this thing was important to them, so they were
Mm-hmm.
going to try to be in like the highest profile places to hawk it. Like nothing about that guy seemed very authentic to me. And then the other guy with white hair, whose name I never think I heard, he just looked
No.
like somebody's dad who was there. He would follow up a lot of the stuff from like separate camera shots, just being like, "It's amazing!" Like just like chiming in with like, "It changes lives," and that's like his only thing. He was just like way more aggro, but also just as dumb.
Yeah. I, I'm trying to think. I liked being introduced to Wim Hof though. I like
His whole
character,
deal.
his
Yeah.
whole deal. His story when he tells his life story and starts talking about his first wife is really fucking sad and kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
But I guess I guess it worked out because he is invulnerable to cold and
Yeah.
can make his body like not get sick on because of his will or something like that.
I mean, there's a bunch of people like in Alaska and stuff who do like polar bear club type stuff. It's the
Yeah.
same basic thing. Like, it really does feel like the breathing stuff is sort of common sense if you've gone through therapy for anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cold stuff, like cold therapy itself, is not an uncommon thing. It seems like his main innovation is that he's just sticking to it and like teaching people how to do it. But like
Yeah.
ultimately, I found myself agreeing with a lot more of that episode, but I didn't like how they kept messaging it as like this is a way for rich people to become invulnerable to illness, which is not at all what that's for. Like it's for normal people, cold therapy is a way to like reduce stress and body pain. Like it's not a way to become impervious to illness.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I like his what is he, Dutch? I like his accent and I like his that's what I referenced in our intro was his really interesting comb over ponytail braid situation
Yeah,
that he does a couple of times.
and he's definitely the front of his head is definitely bald. Like he has one of
Yeah.
those like islands of hair in the front,
Yeah.
and instead
But
of
it's long
like
enough to put it back in his
yeah, but
ponytail.
he doesn't put it straight back even. He pulls it to the side.
Yeah.
So
It's so weird.
he has like a side swoop of like four wide strands of hair, and that's it. And
It's so
it's a
weird to
real
look at.
look. Uh, I did get a real sense of body positivity off that guy though, because he's
Yeah.
like he looks like somebody's uncle. Like there's nothing about him that's like, oh man, really fucking fit from all of this stuff. It's just like, yeah, he's got like a pot belly and he's like just a weird shaped, normal looking dude. I appreciated that. Like honestly, he might be one of the most like normal looking people on the show so far.
I think so. Yeah.
And I also like how comically intense he is in like the videos they show of him when he's younger doing his like cold therapy stuff, and it'll zoom in on his face. He's like, "Wow!" Like it's real
Like
good.
a really dramatic eye contact with the camera.
Uh-huh.
He does that a couple of different times. It's pretty good.
And that guy had a positivity that was much less gross feeling than the first episode.
Yeah.
I he also felt like an uncle in that like, dude, too many high fives, like you gotta cut it out. But at the same time it's like, I mean, he's dealing with a bunch of people he doesn't know, so that's fine. Uh
I think his charm is the only thing that kept it from feeling like this is an eccentric uh, retreat for you to go on.
yeah.
But so I liked him. I
Yeah,
don't.
he seemed
I
all right.
yeah, I like him. I don't know what ended up happening to the lady who actually had like a panic disorder. I don't think at the end she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm probably gonna do this again.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, that's the thing is the messaging they gave was like this cured her of her panic attacks. The uh, as a person who gets panic attacks, that's not a thing. You don't cure somebody of their panic attacks, but
Mm.
like you can teach them how to deal with it better, and that seemed like what they were doing. Had that video been focusing around somebody who wasn't Gwoople, I think that they probably would have been more straightforward with that messaging. But you know, we're not going to get that from this show. Uh,
Yeah.
did you have any other thoughts on the first half? Are you
Um,
excited to hear about how everybody's psychic?
Oh, I'm so excited to tap into my secret psychic potential that Gwyneth Paltrow thinks that I have.
Yeah.
I'd love that. My only other thing I thought of from the first half was during the masturbating episode, the person that kind of ends up going to the workshop or something from Goop is a woman who grew up in Shanghai, and she goes to Betty's workshop to overcome some kind of like sexual shame because she grew up in Shanghai and like they don't talk about sex, or like the culture is very conservative.
Okay.
And she's gay, so that's also something they never talked about.
All
But
right.
she goes to this workshop to kind of, I guess, work through that. And I really liked all of her scenes, like when she's kind of talking about her past, and she does the, actually I don't think they ever show her doing like the vagina showy part. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
I don't think she did that. Like they show vaginas, but they don't like be like, oh, this is hers. It's just kind of like cycles through shots of them. And then there is one person who does masturbate on camera, so that's the end of the episode.
All right.
Spoiler alert,
Well,
that happens.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. But anyway, my original thought, it's cool watching this employee of Goop go through the workshop. But earlier today, what was I was like trying to, oh, I was on Gwyneth Paltrow's Instagram
Oh, good.
just doing some research.
Uh-huh.
And she had taken a picture with the girl from that episode, and then I tapped into she was like tagged in the photo, so I went to go to her profile, and she has about 4 pictures up, and they're all about that episode on her whole profile.
That's her whole
And
profile?
that's her whole profile, is like maybe 2 rows of photos. They're all about that
Oh.
episode, and she got a Madewell uh, Goop like collaboration. So she is like repping Madewell's clothing to advertise for this episode, I guess.
Okay.
So that felt really annoying. That I guess she just set up. I either is not a real person, um, and they just like made up a Instagram account with 2 rows of photos to cover that.
Are
Or
you
she
trying
just
to
hates Instagram.
insinuate that this was a crass marketing move to
You know,
humanize Gwoople and
maybe I am.
also make you feel for this person who is maybe not totally authentic? That sounds like a fucking profile you would find on like, why are these people liking me? And then you go look and it's like fake accounts of like people who are
Yes.
like pretending to be call girls or something. It's like, oh cool. Great.
Great. That's exactly what it is. Here's the photo of her and Gwyneth. That's
Oh.
her.
With
And then
the vagina themed backdrop.
yes, her name is Lexi. You go to her profile. This is it. This is her whole profile.
Yep, 6 pictures, just like a real human.
Definitely a real person. Oh, I took a Polaroid with
Ah,
myself. Oh, here's some other photos in a carousel that look to be completely unrelated from each other, almost if I just asked someone for random photos of themselves and posted them.
uh-huh.
Oh, here's a Marc Jacobs collab. Also, Goop is a part of this for some reason.
Sure.
Oh, here's a Madewell collab and a magazine interview. So, yeah, I feel like this person might not be 100% real.
Yeah.
Also, her bio is Lexi Jew, hashtag the Goop Lab, hashtag Goop at Goop Shop, Goop.com. That is her entire bio.
All right.
So yeah, definitely 100% legit.
Well, that's fun.
Yep.
uh, I'll have to watch that episode and
It's worth
review it.
watching. I
All
think
right.
it's worth watching. It's they do a pretty cool like 5 minutes where they a group of women from Goop do this like what does she call it? Verbally expressing consent kind of workshop. So they have each other do like hand massages and foot massages, and you have to just kind of like talk through it to make sure you're not fucking someone's hand up or their foot up and you're doing what they want. So that part was like kind of interesting.
Oh, like practice to like have some sort of dialogue as you're trying to mess with somebody.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like
That makes sense.
consent and like expressing what feels good. So
that's probably, well, two things, I guess. That's probably a great thing to add into the life skills teaching when people are younger, let's say 11th or 12th grade. But then I also would say anybody who has publicly done shit like, hey, we're going to talk about what masturbation means, immediately gets totally fucked over by people in the US who don't agree with that shit. So
yeah.
I don't know how you would do that, but they should.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought when I was watching it. I was like, this is cool and it should be not be a work retreat.
Yeah.
And maybe a school thing.
Weirdly enough, all of that what is this millennial trash type stuff always seems to be in the realm of how could people be better and healthier when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, just sort of a general thing from my day, the lady who runs the company I work for just discovered, like this last weekend, avocado toast. So that's become a big deal.
Oh my.
I thought that was pretty funny because that's like the most stereotype thing that could happen.
And God, when was that a big thing? Like what 2 years ago?
Even more more than that, but even more stereotypically, it was because she was on a trip to Portland. And the place that she stayed in offered avocado toast as a breakfast that they would bring to your room.
Yep.
So let that be a lesson to all boomers. Just try it. Just try the shit that your stupid millennial relatives do, and you'll probably think it's pretty good. And also not in any way strange or outside of the norm of what you're actually used to.
Yeah. Give avocado toast a try.
Yeah.
Is the message of our podcast.
Come on, you old fuck. Just do it.
Just do it.
Listen, all you grandpas listening to this or watching this. Just do it. You can find us at Vegeta42069 on Instagram.
We still have our email if you want to email us questions.
What is that email?
It's thisweekspodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, shit!
Yep. That's it. And there's no punctuation. It's this week's podcast.
Yep. No punctuation, all one word. It's this week's podcast at gmail.com.
Please send us dick pics.
Oh, yeah. We'll brighten them up and put them all on the screen together, and we will determine whether they look normal or not.
Goop edition.
Yeah.
Of our podcast.
We'll goop up those dicks for you. Did we get any emails yet? I assume not.
We did get one. It was a cake.
Uh,
I have a
okay.
feeling.
I think I know where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling that one was meant specifically for you,
God damn it.
given your history.
Yeah. Hashtag real ones know why.
Is that person listening to our podcast somehow?
No,
No?
nobody is. Not yet. I mean, when people hear this, they will have, but not
Oh,
now. Not
well,
as
then
we're
that's
recording
great.
it.
Well, that might have to become an ongoing segment. Is just rate this cake.
Yeah, that's fair. Once we get a second screen situation figured out, we can just start popping those cakes up on screen,
Yeah,
give it a good rating. I'm
Yeah.
sure they would do it.
we'll do it side by side with the dicks.
I mean, we're trying to convince their SO to read some important work on our podcast. So
Oh,
if we can get that figured out, why couldn't we get the cakes figured out?
yep. That's true.
What was it? Was it? Can you describe the cake for me?
I honestly looked at it for about 2 seconds, and what comes to my mind right now is blue blob, but I feel like there was more of a point to it than that, so I'm looking.
Yeah, I think you should get into that cake, see what's going on.
Yeah, I definitely should. My internet is just refusing to cooperate.
Yeah.
In
hindsight, Monday night for recording is always a little bit dicey, so.
Okay.
Cake me!
As fast as the internet will allow. All right. I get it. Please do it. Okay. Here we go. Cake. It is. Oh, God. No, actually, you know what? I was actually pretty right
Oh, okay.
in terms of blue blob. Okay, so there are actually 2 cakes. I didn't see the second one. I'll send them to you now so we can get your thoughts on these cakes in real time.
All right, let me assess this cake.
All right. Here we go.
It'll come in real quick because we do this on Skype. So
yeah,
stand by for
really
cake.
Fast.
Oh yeah. Oh, yep.
So it wasn't super wrong, actually.
This is a blue blob, but it's got like a lamprey mouth that's got shark teeth in it, and it's got eyes and a fin. So that's not an incredibly attractive cake, but I have seen it in the past. I think I ate part of that cake, in fact.
Oh.
Oh shit! And yeah, that cake's the best. That might be one of the best cakes ever. The second cake there is, if you've ever seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the sort of terrifying claymation version, the Yeti that has a toothache, which I feel very akin to. This cake looks like that, but if it were worse looking.
It's really good, actually. I knew immediately what it was.
But it is wall-eyed. I appreciate that too. It's definitely looking everywhere.
It's pretty good. I do like that one a lot.
We should see if we can make our weekly cakes the image for our
yeah.
For our podcasting. That Yeti would make a good crop down for some Vegeta for 2069 if you know what I'm saying.
That's happening right now.
Also, make sure you put our email on there so that people can email us from that too. Because when people see these cakes in that email, they're going to want to ask us some questions for sure.
They're going to have some questions. Okay. Here we go.
While you're doing that, did you happen to watch Morbius trailer at all? I'm guessing no.
Oh shit! No, I didn't.
Okay. Maybe we'll do a little of that action here in a minute.
Oh yeah, real time reaction.
Yeah, if your internet allows it. You can always watch it on your phone too. It's not very short as far as trailers go, but it is very stupid.
Okay. I will pull it up. Morbius. Last week we kind of briefly off podcast talked about this, and Jesse had me look it up, and it looked real questionable. Okay.
To be fair, we talked about a lot of stupid shit off podcast last week.
Fair.
People didn't know the story of Ball Jedi, even, or etc.
That's got to be like a full length podcast at some other time.
Yeah,
for sure.
It will be.
We need a whole day to just go through Wikipedia.
Yeah, we can talk about Ball Jedi, and we can talk about foreign nut sacks for just hours. I'm not really meaning that facetiously either. There's a lot to talk about.
No, not at all, unfortunately. Okay, here we go. Oh. Wait. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm being served an ad. What is Birds of Prey? Is that like gonna be the sequel to Suicide Squad?
I thought Birds of Prey was a TV show, but maybe it's the movie. Yeah. Well, they're making a second Suicide Squad, so that's the sequel. But Birds of Prey has Harley Quinn in it. Birds of Prey is fine, like the actual comic of it.
Okay.
If you like Black Canary.
Okay. I was just not sure. I'm going to try playing this on my phone because in the 2 seconds of the ad that I played, Skype just fully stopped working. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
You start playing that and make sure it's close enough to the mic. I'm going to grab something real quick.
Okay. Here we go. Ooh. We're going to get claimed. Oh my god, why are there 2 ads? Okay. Ooh. Here we go.
Michael, I've known you since you were a child.
Oh no, bullying.
You have a gift. You always have.
Jared Leto is this man, by the way.
I should have died years ago.
Okay, so he has some sort of spinal issue. Oh no. Wait, did he just euthanize someone?
This could be my last chance.
You're up to something. What is it?
Is that bat liquid?
It's not exactly legal.
I want to see you get hurt more than you already have.
This would be a cure.
This trailer is taking a very long time to ramp up to whatever is supposed to happen. Ew, no.
At what cost?
Some bats just ate his hand. Ew.
What's happening?
If I didn't know that this was Morpheus, I might think this was like a weird off-brand Batman.
Strength and speed. The ability to use echolocation. An overpowering urge to consume.
Is the trailer loud enough?
Did you make it through the trailer?
I'm still making it.
Yeah,
I have a whole nother minute. This is
a
so
deep
long.
trailer. Keep it coming. Let's call this the intermission.
So I was just thinking, like, if I had no frame of reference or no context when just being made to watch this, I would fully think that I was watching a trailer for another Batman movie.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Oh, okay. Except for now we have scary teeth, so I guess it's Morbius.
So this is in the Marvel universe.
Right. Okay.
So it's not Batman.
Definitely not Batman because he's got scary teeth.
Uh, it should show his whole face. That's important.
I got a very short glimpse of it. Wait, but it was very like over the shoulder, so maybe it wasn't as.
Yeah, I think that's the main one that they're showing right now. Probably because the effects aren't done and they suck.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't like his nose. His bat nose. Pretty
Yeah.
rough. But yeah, last week when we were talking about it, you said that Jared Leto is a good casting for this, and I agree.
Yep. It's kind of perfect because
pretty good.
he's not especially likable or good to look at as like Morbius, and that's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And also, like, whether you think Leto is a good actor or not, I think he's fine in certain things. He is exactly the right amount of up his own ass for that role as like a sick rich man.
Yep. But again, definitely this is not Batman, you guys. It's not.
It's not, because it's in the Spider-Man universe. Yeah, it's a bad idea. That character's bad. You can fight me about it. It's not a good use of vampires. Oftentimes, he will be tracked down by Blade in the comics, and then it resolves because he's not a regular vampire, and Blade's usually just like, okay. Yeah, very titillating.
My favorite part of the trailer is when he's standing by himself in his lab with his cool contacts, and he is whispering to himself about how he can do echolocation.
Yep.
And then there's like rings of force bouncing off of him because he's echolocating. Also, wait, he becomes this thing by cutting his hand open and having bat swarm his open wound, and they like that part of it?
So he becomes this thing in a very, I don't know, he basically turns himself into a vampire, but through science. But the science is always like as questionable as any of the other science in Marvel.
Right.
And it's supposed to be played off like he has to live with this huge burden of being a gross bat person. But, like, who cares, I guess? Like, it's not... There's also a character in that universe called Man Spider who is just a man-sized spider. So, like a man-sized spider that stands up and has, like, spider face and spider hands. But, like, who cares? Like, those characters are stupid and probably shouldn't be a movie, but they're going to do it, so they may as well. I'm extremely excited to see it because it does not look good.
Yeah, I wish. Looking at the like CGI or effects or whatever it is they're doing, I already wish that this was like a magic movie. Like, it reminds me of what was that stupid movie that Nick Cage was in? Not very specific.
You mean like
where he's like a
Ghost Rider?
No, it might not be Nick Cage. Fuck, they're like monster hunters, or he's like a monster hunter. The main dude is. What am I thinking of? I want to say Van Halen, but that is Van Helsing. Oh my god, is that even Nick Cage?
No, that's Wolverine.
Really? Oh, that's unfortunate.
Fuck, what's his name?
I know who you're talking. God, I would have been able to say it.
It's The Greatest Showman. That's
Yeah.
who's Van Helsing.
Ooh, did we ever talk about Greatest Showman?
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
We didn't. I haven't seen it.
It's not good.
I mean, I'll watch it, but I haven't seen it.
We could. Or I could talk about it. That's
I would love to hear about it. I don't know how much I want to watch The Greatest Showman. I haven't heard good
It's the greatest show.
How much is it like The Prestige?
I don't even know.
Okay. How much is it like Moulin Rouge?
I've actually never seen Moulin Rouge.
Oh, we might have to watch that because that's actually...
That seems important, yeah.
It's got the best rendition of Roxanne. That's important.
Okay. Yeah. That would be good to have seen. I should have seen that by now. But I don't know how it compares to those, but it's generally unsatisfying.
How does it compare to Cats?
Nothing compares to Cats. Oh God. I don't even remember how I got here. I was talking about Van Helsing. Why was I talking about that? Oh.
You said it looked
Morpheus
like...
reminds me of that. Yeah.
Oh,
it makes me wish it was going to be like a mystical, cool bat creature movie, but
nope.
Whatever.
It's a bat creature that has small spats with and then is sort of friends with Spider-Man.
Yeah, okay.
Because you could see that creature being in Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible idea. I don't think they should make that movie, but I'm glad that they are. That kind of reminds me of this upcoming Valentine's Day and what we're all going to be doing on Valentine's Day. Nope, it's not fucking. It might be in part, but it's going to see Sonic the Hedgehog, which comes out on Valentine's Day.
Oh, really? That comes out on Valentine's Day?
Yeah, so if you haven't set up a date yet, you should start getting to work.
Boy. Well, now I have plans. Oh, God. That's exciting. When was it supposed to come out the first time? Before they decided to redo
I think it was supposed to come out like around Thanksgiving. I think.
Okay.
It should have been coming out at Halloween, honestly, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Thanksgiving and then it was pushed to Valentine's Day.
Okay. Well, that's funny. That's pretty similar to the Cats approach of we kind of will patch our movie and see if anybody notices.
Yeah, theirs was just patched for 3 months, where Cats was patched for like an evening.
Yeah, because that's the only improvement that Cats needed. They just needed like a week to make things work, and then it's perfect.
I mean, at least Cats had the benefit of it being over the top of people that they had to work.
Yeah.
Where Sonic is a set of scenes that have to work with a creature that they were like adjusting the height of, which sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Oh God, I'm looking up.
Movie times.
Yes. Well, not yet, but I want to see like a still from the new. I mean, it looks better, I guess.
Do the side by side. I like the shitty one because it would have been shittier, but it does look better now, technically.
Looking at the first one, I'm just like, I don't even know how they arrived at this.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? It looks like a furry. Like it straight up looks like somebody like in a helmet that just has really good articulation.
Yeah, I don't. So this is the before and after.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing the difference. That makes. Oh my god. I can't believe they were trying to pass that off. Like,
I can't wait to see one of those monsters eat chili dogs. That's what I'm waiting for.
it's gonna happen too.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm really glad they decided to redo that because that was gonna be horrifying. I don't understand their like. It feels like they were thinking, "Oh, we need to make it look like an actual hedgehog."
Yeah, I don't know what they were going for because it's bad.
It's real bad, and like, we already know it's not a fucking real hedgehog. He walks like a person, so he's not an actual hedgehog.
Type in Sonic's legs. Because that's where you get the real stuff.
Sonic's legs. Oh no. See, I have a lot of results that are not.
Yeah, is it working out? Nice. That's what I'm talking about.
I hope the whole movie looks like that. Oh no. Please tell me this isn't from the movie.
It is. That was one of the first images for the movie. That like dick eye shot of Sonic on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, and his sneakers are electric because that was a part of Sonic. Oh no. That's horrendous. So bad.
You don't like that?
Why did they give him like CrossFit calves?
Well, Sonic likes to keep his body confused, and they needed to show that through animation.
Oh my god, it's so disgusting. It looks exactly like. Oh, this is probably on purpose. It looks exactly like that one artist or photographer who would like go around and do, what did he call it? Not urban exploring, but something like similar to that, where he would go trespass somewhere really, really high and take a cool picture of his feet.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up doing like Nike deals and stuff like that. And this reminds me exactly of that. It's the same exact like camera angle, and I bet there's some similarities there. Oh, it's so horrible. I hate it.
Yeah. It feels. Man, there's some hot Sonic legs.
Oh no.
I feel like you just sidestepped into Sonic Twitter.
Yeah, I definitely have. I'm just straight up like scrolling through Sonic memes right now. Oh, and it's really good. Yeah, so yeah, I'll be definitely going to see this in theaters. It'll be important.
Good. Everybody should have Valentine's Day plans, and everybody should see Sonic on Valentine's Day. I'll be at a art opening on Valentine's Day that might also be a nightmare, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, good.
But I can talk about that when it happens. I have a thing that I wanted to maybe close out on. We'll see. Just because I didn't know it existed until a couple days ago, and reading about it, I think it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of Disney/Disneyland, that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting, like the art that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
And like full disclosure, I had one in particular, professor who was like an old Disney artist and stuff like that. And I find that lifestyle, I guess, pretty interesting in a pseudo goop kind of way almost. But I always kind of like the idea of a themed place, like theme parks and things like that. But I don't really like the way that Disney is like a big, weird, like superpower of theme parks. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways the same way high budget movies are Disney now. They've kind of had that space for high budget theme parks for a long time. And I'm a big fan of, I think it's in Taiwan, there's a place called Monster Village that I've always kind of wanted to go to. Um, that is just a it's like a village, I think, in the mountains, in the woods, that is designed kind of like just like Oni folklore style stuff. And it's the whole place, like the food, the goods, the buildings, everything just kind of looks like old fantasy monster stuff. I've always really liked the look of it. And there's a few other spots that give me that feeling, even just like some of the temples in Japan that are a little more remote, I like the look of. But I hadn't seen any that were very interesting in Europe until this week. And I found one I was made aware of one that is already found by many people called Efteling, which is Efteling, and it's in the Netherlands. And it is let's see, it was opened in 1952, and it's had consistent work done on it since forever. Like the whole time it's been open, it's basically been getting updated. They even have people who are like primary artists that work on it that are considered like some of the only people who are as impressive as Disney when it comes to making what they call Imagineering things. So like outdoor sculpture and stuff that is sort of what a theme park is. But the thing I think is really cool about it that makes me like it a lot more is that this place started as a like a nature preserve with like playgrounds on it. And post World War II, they just started like making it a larger preserve, it looks like, with more stuff on it. So it's like a nature preserve, amusement park, and botanical garden. Let's see, some hot Wikipedia for you. So take this with a grain of salt. But it's the largest theme park in the Netherlands, and it's one of the oldest theme parks in the world. And it's twice as large as the original Disneyland park. So it's pretty good size. And it also, its entryway is called the House of Five Senses. And for you, it looks like this.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Which is pretty cool.
Looks very menacing almost.
Yeah, all of its design, a lot of it is done by an artist named Ton van de Ven, who's an industrial designer from the Netherlands. But it's a park that is mostly made with like non-plastic material, and like it's basically designed to be compatible with the space that it's in. It has a lot of like actual stonework, like castles and stuff like that, that are kind of the way Disneyland has stuff like that, where they'll put like a like 3/4 size castle facade on a hill that gives you the perspective of it being real. This just straight up has like dope ass like architecture on it that this guy built. And he has like I think Van de Ven's the original guy, and then there's a guy who started working there under him and kind of took over. But it's continued to be like a preserve, as well as a botanical garden type of place, as well as this theme park. And it's also a theme park that's designed to cater to kids and adults. So it's like, hey, you can come here and just fucking relax. Like they do have like some roller coaster type stuff that's like built to look like folklore, but it sounds like it's more like what I would think of a nice place to go is, as opposed to the Disney aesthetic of like, it's going to be fucked here, so
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, that sounds way nicer.
And the best part is that it has really like in-depth like art and sculpture and like people in costumes and stuff, just like Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fucked up because it's all actual folklore stuff from the area. So it's got like weird guy sculptures like on trees that are like fully colored and stuff the way you would see at a Disneyland, but they're made out of like metal and wood, and they have like weird elongated necks with like horrifying faces on them. Like it's the kind of place I would actually want to go. Efteling does also have an Instagram that is very easy to find, and some of the best pictures I've found are not on there, but they do show a pretty good like set of sort of just the general idea of it. And it, like, for something that I had not heard about, I know there's a lot of things in the world I haven't heard about, but this just seems like it's really successful and really cool, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And it would be nobody in the U.S. talks about it, and it would be nice to like let people know there is a non-Disney way to make something that's cool and like long-lasting like that. Also, the name being very not pronunciation that we're used to, I think makes it tougher to like tell people about it. But it is very cool looking. Anyway,
Yeah,
I think
I
everybody
found
should
it.
go check that out.
Yeah. I'm scrolling through their Instagram right now, and it's looks massive. And so yeah, I'm really surprised that like
And
I had no idea.
unlike Disneyland, it's like all in the woods, which is way cooler.
Mm-hmm.
If you should find the picture of Geppetto's workshop that just looks like somebody fucking built this like weird ass wooden house in the woods and did a great job designing it. All of that stuff is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at their like props and decor and stuff, and yeah, it's really I found one. I don't think it's Geppetto's house. It looks like a Hansel and Gretel sort of thing, but
yeah,
it's all really beautiful.
I definitely want to go there. I'll put that on the goals list, is to do a podcast from within the park someday.
That would be good. I like this man's just weird long neck and head.
Right? It's very good.
It's pretty unsettling and just randomly in the middle of nowhere, but I also, there's a big dragon head. That's pretty awesome. And like fish sticking out of water. Very nice. It kind of reminds me of have you ever been to Silverwood in northern Idaho, I guess it is?
No. I have not been to Silverwood.
It's just like a tiny little amusement park. They have a couple of roller coasters. Their theming is more, I think, Western. But it's it reminds me kind of a very, very small scale of this, and probably less like fantasy whimsical, but
yeah,
they do kind of similar things. But that sounds
pretty interesting. Have you gone there and like seen all of it? Is it worth going to?
Yeah, I think so. There's not a whole lot to do in Coeur d'Alene, so it's definitely one of the only things and better things to do. But they do have a lot of like themed areas, kind of like that, and decor, kind of in that theme parky way. But they don't have people. Well, I guess they do have people who dress up as like characters, but not it's not like very Disney-esque. It's pretty different.
Would you say, what'd you call it?
Silverwood.
Silverwood. Would you say it's similar to Leavenworth? Or is it more parky than Leavenworth?
It's more parky than Leavenworth for sure. They do have like a little strip it's very small, but like a little strip of stores that they make like Western themed.
Okay.
So
Uh,
that's probably the most Leavenworth-esque thing.
For reference, Leavenworth is an old logging town that took over Native American hunting land in Washington State. And then in like the mid 70s, I want to say, maybe the mid 60s, they went, hey, let's make this German themed so we can get more tourism. And they did, and it worked. It has some really awesome shops, but I do wish it were not where it is. Are you thinking about olive oil right now?
Yeah. That is one of the awesome shops in Leavenworth. Is there is a shop that just specializes in different like infused olive oils and vinegars, and that's like one of the best places to go. But this week, actually 2 days ago, my friend was down here and we went to a olive oil tap house, which is probably the best thing to have ever existed.
Yeah, this sounds real good.
Yeah, so I think there's a part to it that I didn't explain to you, or maybe I did, but this is like even better than regular just infused olive oils that you get to try. They have
close-ups of people's vaginas.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. It's they actually, since it's like on tap, I guess their olive oil collection is sourced by this company out of Montana that does all of the infusing or whatever. But they have like different taps of probably 60 or something different oils and vinegars, and you can purchase a container, and they'll like you pay for the container one time, and then they fill up the oil, and then you can bring it back, and like they fill it up every time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's a very, I guess that is a very tap house thing to do. I'm glad that exists.
Yeah. Me too, because I love olive oil, especially infused ones, and it's cool to like, now that I have the bottle, I can just go back and try whichever one, and I don't have to buy another thing. So
if you get the chance, you should, like when I was learning how to do herb infusions a couple years ago, you should try doing some oil infusions. It's not super difficult. You can look it up pretty easily, but it's worth it. If you get it down, I've done a little bit of oil stuff, and it feels nice, even if the flavor often isn't as good, to be able to get like regular ass oil and then kind of turn it into something.
Yeah.
I still end up just getting like pre-flavored balsamic vinegar to go with it, because you got to do both. You're not going to get that oil slick to dip your bread in if you don't do both.
Yeah. I've spent probably the last 2 days just eating bread and oil for every meal, which is a really good lifestyle, and I recommend it for everybody. I feel great.
That's one of those surprisingly affordable lifestyle choices that when I was a kid and we were extremely poor, instead of just getting hamburgers with saved up change, we would sometimes do like vinegar and oil and like homemade pasta weeks, and that's the fucking best.
Yep, it's always a good choice. And also I got this Play-Doh that is therapy dough.
Oh, does it smell like therapies?
It smells like the beach. It's the beach scent. Right. So I really like my therapy dough. I'm a really fidgety person, so it's nice to be able to have fun Play-Doh so I don't make a bunch of noise while we're recording.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. I like a good like graspy object.
Yeah.
I finished up at one of the places that I am getting teeth work done at. on, I guess, last Friday. But it was so I've been going there for like 6 months, like oftentimes several times a week. uh, and it was weirdly emotional, like leaving my hygienist that I've had there for like half a year.
Oh.
Like I got a card from them also when I was
Oh my
leaving that was
God.
just like, the last 6 months have been, a journey, like that kind of stuff. Uh, but I wasn't really expecting that aspect of it, and I think that weirdly, finishing up with some of that stuff was an aspect of the stress that I was having.
Yeah.
But that's been an interesting life experience. But anyway, they had like a weird like star shaped like worry thing,
Yeah.
and I got very used to like, especially because some of the injections that you get for like certain parts of your mouth when you need it numb fucking suck.
Yeah.
It only happened once really, but of the like hundreds of injections that I got, one of them did hit the nerve in like my right cheek, and it just like destroyed my whole face for a second, where like
Oh my God.
it felt like somebody lit all of my skin on fire. And then it just went away really quick, but it was intense. uh, it was kind of like getting an electric shock that hurts a little more. uh,
Oh, that's.
but also at the time that it happened, there was a
Oh.
needle in my like tissue, so I couldn't like move, so it was just kind of like staring into space, I guess.
Just in a great deal of pain.
Yeah, thankfully, like nerve pain sucks, but it often is like shooting pain. It's not consistent. So at least it wasn't as bad as it could have
God.
been with that, but still not
Still
fun.
sounds pretty horrific. But, that's pretty scary.
Well, I'll have a different person working on some of my teeth with even more injections because it'll be like harder work. So I'll hope it doesn't happen again. It's
Yeah.
like any dental thing that doesn't work out perfect. Like coming through in terms of like being able to feel a root canal in the middle is fucking terrible, because you can feel an amazing amount of it. Like
Mhm.
it might be in a piece of like bone essentially, but it's like when you're inside a tooth, it's like being inside a second mouth inside your mouth, almost. Like it's such a weird feeling, and
Yeah.
it's really just the worst feeling. I might have explained it before, but probably not on the podcast. Don't ever be afraid of getting that stuff done. Like I didn't hesitate when I heard that I should get it done, because I don't need infections or worse. But essentially, if you can feel it, if they don't numb you up properly, it feels like somebody has rolled up a piece of tinfoil really finely and then has threaded it through your bones and is just like wrenching it back and forth. It's it's amazingly uncomfortable.
That's a really vivid description. You did that very well because I'm in pain.
I had some time to ruminate on it.
Oh, no.
Also, the injection that I got to like make sure it stopped doing that quickly was definitely the most uncomfortable injection, because they did it into the tooth. So if you go get that stuff done, just say, I'm okay with a lot of numbing. I don't know how I'm going to react to like how fast I'll burn off some of this. So like I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Just do it, because the alternative fucking sucks, and
Yeah.
at the worst you'll have to pay like an extra $20 or something to make sure, and it's definitely worth like
The peace of mind.
it's worth like 3 coffees for sure. you're gonna benefit more from not having that happen than
Oh my
having it.
god, yeah. I would have to be very, very sedated for that, just given my recent issues with dentist anxiety. But
Yeah, dentist anxiety is very real still, and I've been to a lot of it now. So you would think it would lessen. It has lessened, but uh, I actually, because I had a pretty serious like panic attack when I was younger that I like my whole body went numb from it, but
Mhm.
slowly. And when they first gave me, they had to work on the bottom of my mouth, and uh, oh, what a beautiful song! They had to numb the bottom of my mouth, and it numbed my throat a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I had like a really vivid flashback to was being like I think 14, somewhere in that range, years old, and my entire body going numb and like my throat being numb.
Mhm.
And I like almost started having a panic attack. Like I was very close. Thankfully, I was in like a dental chair in a well-lit room with people all around, so it's harder to have it happen that way. But
Mhm.
it was rough. It was not great. Your mindset is very like if you can put yourself in the place of being like 90 years old and feeling like, oh, here comes death. Like that's how it felt while I was in the chair.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I'm going.
That's
Here's the end.
yes, that's exactly very similar to what happened to me. Uh, my dentist they had a new thing that like pushes your tongue to the side so they can just like leave it in your mouth the whole time, and you
Oh,
basically just have to breathe through your nose.
interesting.
Um, yeah, which
I haven't had
is
that yet.
it's kind of nice because you don't have to like keep your mouth open the whole time, but you have to breathe through your nose. And so I like started having really like I did totally fine with it the first time, and then one day I was just not having a good day, I guess, and my body just started being like, this is like you can't breathe. If this is in your mouth, you just can't. What are nostrils? You can't fucking breathe. And so yeah, that was
Those holes are too small.
really
You can't
bad.
use that shit.
There's nothing like your body feeling like you're forgetting how to do a very basic function, and then like the
Yeah.
panic that sets in when you're like, oh shit, I don't know how to breathe. That's important. Yeah, it was a super fun time. That
Maybe
specific.
I maybe something I mentioned before, maybe not. When I got my jaw surgery a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they found out that my esophagus is like angled weirdly and just
Yeah.
bruised like the whole inside of it with a breathing tube midway through the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's the surgery where I woke up at the end and the lady who was like in the room with me was like, "Oh, thank God." um, and I
Oh.
I was an outpatient for that, so like I was just fucked up, and they were like, "All right, see you later." And I went to my parents' house. I was like in college, and they were basically said like for like 3 days, just like sit up in a bed and see if your parents can bring you like chicken stock, and you can have that because my mouth was like wired shut.
Yeah.
Uh, so I had to like drink through my teeth, but also um, they when I left, I tried to ask like, how do I brush my teeth with this stuff? And the response was basically like, oh, which I can't like for as fucked up as my teeth had gotten uh, last year. I am like super fastidious about all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like maybe too much, like uh, and it was real rough doing that, but it was even rougher having my throat swollen almost closed. And if I started to fall asleep and lean forward, my breath just cut off entirely.
Oh my god.
So I could only sleep if I was perfectly still, and it was usually for like 10 minutes at a time at most. It was interesting. That room didn't have a TV in it. I was pretty annoyed about that.
Yeah. That
Uh,
sounds really anti-fun on just about every single level.
Though I think I did end up playing through Picross 3D, so that was pretty good.
Okay. A silver lining. The
Hey,
idea...
those fucking blocks turn into like dogs and elephants when you get them to work. It's pretty dope.
That's pretty good. The idea of having my jaw wired shut is immediately anxiety inducing for me. Like,
But is it better when you think about drinking chicken stock to stay alive?
oh yeah. Oh, yeah, that's better. That's so much better.
Well,
I'm
that
like
surgery
choking on the imaginary.
that surgery is also the one that I now have like that piece of plastic just stuck.
Oh.
So nothing great came from that. Like it was a preventative surgery for like my jaw placement they were like, oh, that'll be a real problem when you get older.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see a difference. Like I besides being able to feel screws if I feel around enough in my jaw, like bone, there's nothing really different about me. So it feels very like unnecessary. But I think that I no longer snore, and I also like can like do things easier, like breathe easier in general. So it did something, but I sure wish it showed a little more.
Yeah. I wonder, Evan has a similar situation where he like needs to get jaw surgery, or I guess they told him when he was younger that he needs to get it.
Yeah.
Because his jaw is
Like up.
I think so. What's your jaw problem? It's like, I think it's like it's crooked a little bit to the side, so like his bottom teeth don't really line up with his top teeth.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, like one side is going to wear down way faster than the other one. So he's supposed to get this jaw surgery where they essentially have to like break his bone.
Yeah.
And it would be
that's what
like,
they did to me. They sawed my lower jaw off, slid it where they needed it, and then they screwed it back together. It's not fun, but it's also not the worst. And if his esophagus is the right shape, he's not going to have any problem.
Except after that, he has to get braces again too.
Yeah,
so
that wasn't fantastic, but I didn't have braces originally, so that was like my first time doing it.
Oh, really? Gotcha.
Well, that's fun. I hope people like dentists.
Jaw surgery. Oh. That's so...
That address to find our Instagram again is Vegeta42069, and we'll try to find some good pictures of teeth at some point. Something fun.
Ooh, yeah. You could see my teeth.
Oh.
I'll post some close-ups of my teeth.
I was thinking we need like some more fetishists on our stuff.
You can pretend that I'm eating you. And then
yeah, just a close up.
The back of my throat. I had one time I was at the doctor for something, and he did the thing where they look at your uvula.
Oh yeah.
He was like, "You have a really small throat." And I was like, "Cool."
Thanks.
So, fun fact about me. Maybe I'll throw up a picture of my really small throat.
Yep. That's, we missed out on the name Really Small Throat for a podcast, but
damn it.
If somebody else wants that, it is, a good name.
I think you should take this moment to look up our profile and also look at their profile picture.
All right. I'll go ahead and look this up.
Okay.
I should still have Vegeta 42069 in my recents. I do not, apparently. It decided that I shouldn't. Oh, yeah! That's what I like to see. Follow.
Woo!
Pretty into that.
It's really good. I feel like it sums up everything.
I'll have to get... Yeah, that'll be my next campaign, is making sure everybody follows this for important info. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad we have that set up. It's kind of impossible to forget that address, so I think we're winning the arms race of this week's podcast on that, even if we are behind on, publishing, whatever the fuck that's about.
People don't need to, hear this to participate. It's fine.
Well, we do have a YouTube now, correct?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so we should be publishing soon. Do you want to give info on that? I'm sure people will know or not already, but
I think, let's see, our channel name is just This Week's Podcast, which is subject to change, as we have just figured out. We have a sister podcast that is not aware of our existence.
Yeah, but they probably don't have video going, so
that's true. Actually, wait, I think they do have a YouTube channel.
Well, we're also a vlogcast now.
This fine.
Week's podcast, vlogcast, coming to you way in the future. Way in the past, really. I did not watch any more of that anime I was talking about, but I will get back to you when I know more about it. That's just an update from before.
Yeah, I actually totally forgot about that. I didn't have a chance to watch that this week.
No problem. For all the weirdos out there who want to know more, they can watch it, and we'll talk about it in the future. Not sure when yet. We might have a lot of, Sonic-related business to take care of.
But I am looking forward to it. That anime sounded really
good.
Concerning.
Yeah. I actually, on my weekend, I had a little bit of time while I was working to watch something or have something on while my paint literally dries, and I picked something else because I didn't feel like dealing with it right now. And I already dealt with Goop earlier that day, so no thanks.
That's a lot of emotional labor in one day.
Emotional labor is what I'm going to put on my tombstone. I think that's the most appropriate. Well, I think we should close this out, but I do want to ask something beforehand, and that is, two things. First, what's our email? Where should people email?
They should email itsthisweekspodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Mm-hmm. Second, is that a robe or a coat?
It is a coat.
Excellent.
That looked a lot like a robe.
I was hoping it was a coat.
Yes.
It looks very comfortable.
It is very comfortable.
I'm still wearing back from work chic. So I'm wearing an old cancer research shirt and shorts, and that's about it. I did get a haircut, though. So
I did notice that. It looks
I feel fancy.
I'm about to cut all my hair off next week, so we'll see how that goes.
Well.
Yep. Something to look forward to for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.